Hello, BEH Families and Students. It's Mr. Kaveh. I wanted to check in because we just wrapped up our first social emotional learning week with empathy focus last week. And so this week, as we move into the garbage can tool, before we get too far along in that, I wanted to kind of share. We had every teacher in our building share one example of a student that they really saw showing empathy or community last week. Because one of the things we're really trying to do is we introduce our toolbox social emotional tools for kind of coping and working through challenges is we're trying to connect those tools to our core values. And if you all remember, I know we haven't been in person to do our assemblies and check in on these weekly, but our core values, and I'm going to give you a chance to think of them on your own, see if you remember all three of them. And for our kindergartners and our pre-K students, I want you to listen real quick so you make sure that you start practicing learning these and thinking about what they mean. And our core values at BEH are perseverance, community, and integrity. And so this past week, we focused on community. And when we were in person, we would talk about how community means that we all belong. We look out for each other. And so with empathy being the tool we practiced last week, we had teachers recognizing students that showed empathy or community within the last week. Now, I'm going to read one student from each class and an example of the empathy that they showed or the community that they showed, but that doesn't mean that's the only person in each class that practiced it. I heard a lot of stories, and it was very difficult for teachers to kind of choose that one person. And each week we are going to be focusing on a student that shows the next SEL tool, social emotional learning tool, or core value. So for this next week coming up, it'll be the garbage can tool and perseverance. So I want to see you guys letting those little things go and focusing on, how do we push through a challenging situation. So for our empathy community week, I'm going to start with Miss Kelly's class. Miss Kelly wanted to recognize DJ Reagan. She said, DJ showed empathy last week, even when I accidentally ate your guys' gingerbread baby. She said, he felt bad for me, and even though because he knew that the cookie was a gift, and he felt so bad that I ate it, which that made DJ feel bad. Like, I'm glad, DJ, that you could recognize that I did not mean to eat kindergartners. I did not mean to eat your gingerbread babies. It was an accident. I thought it was a cookie that was left for me. And so I appreciate the fact that DJ was able to empathize with how I was feeling. And that was what Miss Kelly wanted to recognize there. Miss Ellie's class, she wanted to recognize Langston Vircher for his showing community last week. And she said what she sees from Langston is he's very happy and friendly when he comes to a meeting, and he's always saying hello to all the students on there and saying hello by name. And then when the meeting's over, he tries to make sure and say goodbye to each student by name. So that was some things that Ms. Ellie wanted to recognize. Mr. John wanted to recognize Anaya Clark. He said that Anaya Clark is always thinking of others, and he can see that in the way that she interacts with other people and kind of checking to make sure they're doing all right. In first grade, Miss Casey wanted to recognize Jesse Harden Waters. She said, he makes connections with classmates and he helps in a caring way when a student is struggling. So that's that piece of empathy, right? He checks to see and he sees someone's having a hard time, and he goes to try and figure out how to help and make them feel better and help them through that situation. And Miss Lauren wanted to recognize David Hernandez. And she said that David not only participated in Spirit Week with a lot of enthusiasm, he also got his whole family involved, and he participates in every morning meeting. So she wanted to recognize that piece for community. And Miss Sheila wanted to recognize Uziri Sparrow, and she said that she's always considerate of others and checking on how they're feeling. So those are our first graders. I wanted to check in on our second graders. So Miss Cachado wanted to recognize Terrell Mulba. She said that Terrell is always checking in with friends to see how they are doing. I'm starting to notice a little bit of a theme when we think about empathy is checking on each other and seeing kind of how you're feeling and maybe finding connections about how you would feel in that situation and helping people feel a little bit better about it. Miss Peters wanted to recognize Tristan Lewis. She said he's always concerned about others during morning meeting as well as his small group times. So nice work on that. And then I wanted to focus in on third grade. In third grade, Miss Porter wanted to recognize Jasper Burrows. She said the student participated in Spirit Week with great enthusiasm and really kind of started to bring other people into it through that excitement. Miss Hutzel wanted to recognize Leilani Hefner. for always showing up to class on time, reaching out when she has questions. She's always eager to participate in classroom discussions, and she's understanding when she needs to wait for others to have a turn. So having that time to think about other people and making sure that they get a chance for it too. In fourth grade, Miss Blanton wanted to recognize Kojo Gyabu. She said, he's always patient and willing to listen, not just to the teacher, but to others. And then Ms. Miles Gonzalez wanted to recognize Cassius Marcel. He is kind and thoughtful in his interactions with staff and peers. Even though he is new to our school, he is already such an important part of our community. So welcome, Cassius. I wish we were back in person so that we could meet face to face, but I have been able to see you in a couple of meetings. Getting into our fifth graders, Mr. Swatala wanted to recognize Mary DeRege for being so positive and thoughtful towards everyone. And Mr. Sky wanted to recognize another new student to BEH, Taj Monk. He said he's very considerate of others. When he spoke at the same time as another student during class, he made sure the other student was invited to speak before him. He's been very engaged every class meeting and small group, and is always seems to show respect and empathy for his classmates. And at times he'll even ask how he's doing and wanting that feedback, which is something that sometimes elementary fifth grade students don't think about, is thinking about getting their own feedback and what they can do to shift. In Miss Wilson's class, she wanted to recognize Isaiah Glass. Isaiah has been attending almost every live session daily with a smile on his face and doing his best work. So she wanted to make sure to say, way to go, Isaiah, keep it up. And then in Mr. Smith's class, he wanted to recognize Carter Suchi. He's always willing to help and encourage his classmates. So keep that up, Carter. I miss seeing you in person too. You always got an energy about yourself as well. And then we had a specials teacher. We put this out to classroom teachers, but we had a specials teacher that wanted to make sure and recognize a person. And Mr. Todd wanted to make sure and recognize Hazel Bailey. He saw her stand up and kind of speak up for a friend when their name was mispronounced, and kind of stepping in and helping kind of connect that and correct that situation, and kind of empathize in how they might have been feeling. So I wanted to say thank you to all of those students, but also to all other BEH students that have been practicing that empathy tool. Keep that up and keep building that community. I'm hopeful we'll get to be back in person soon and keep our community going strong. And this week, let's be focusing on our garbage can tool and letting those little things go. So I hope to see you all soon, and keep up the good work.
Hi, Boise families. My name is Mr. Robbie, your Boise Sun Site Manager. I just want to say congratulations to the students who were just recognized from their teachers on displaying empathy/community. That was this past week's Toolbox lesson. Next week will be a new Toolbox, just like Mr. Kaveh just mentioned. Just wanted to say, in a collaboration between Sun School, myself, and our PTA here at Boise, we would like to reward students and incentivize students who are displaying those Toolbox lessons, who are doing a great job in the classroom, who are being recognized from their teachers each week on Wednesdays during distribution time, which is from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 3 to 5 p.m. So students who are recognized from these teachers this past week displaying empathy. So if your name was just recently called from Mr. Kaveh in that video, just before mine, please show up next Wednesday, October 28th, during any of those times, 10 to 12, between 10 to 12 or between 3 to 5, to pick up a prize for your student or for yourself if you were recognized from your teacher for displaying empathy. So great job. Each week there will be some new winners, hopefully some same winners, but we would love to have some new winners. But every Wednesday, please come by the school, pick up some prizes where material distribution is. Thank you. Peace.